Good afternoon, and welcome to this session, which is a joint case study presentation by me, Robert Melville, from Experian Marketing Services. I'm very pleased to have with me Charlotte Crideford from Vodafone UK to talk to you about how a customer-centric approach has helped Vodafone to optimise mobile marketing strategy to drive increased ROI. Before we start, I have to say that I'm very envious of Charlotte's job title. She has a great job title. It's Marketing Manager for Mobile and Multi-Channel Innovation, and that sounds pretty exciting to me. Before we dive into the meat of the presentation, just a couple of quick points for those of you who sit in the hyper-connected category out there. Some hashtags for you. There's the TFM hashtag if you want to share your thoughts, feelings, opinions about today's event. And more pertinent to me, if you're looking to raise questions or opinions or thoughts or feelings about this session now, then we have the Ask EMS hashtag, and we have our panel of experts waiting to answer your questions there. We will be taking some questions at the end of today's session, hopefully, but also we're on stand C17 if you want to come and talk to us about anything we discussed today later on this afternoon. So, what's today about? Billed as a session of discovery. I like to keep things simple. We're here to tell you a story. We're here to tell you a story about how Vodafone, Charlotte in particular, and Experian Marketing Services and the guys in the teams within our group have worked together to really understand how addressing the customer journey in a way that really talks to the customer can create benefits. Not only that, how you need to think about that cross-channel and optimise across channel so that you're putting the right message at the right time to the right individual. And when we're talking about that, we're really talking about being very customer-centric and customer-conscious in your approach. So what we want to do over the next 20 minutes or so is talk to you about how we've gone about integrating email, web and mobile, specifically to address improvements in the band and basket programs that Vodafone UK have been running. And to give you some colour around that story, I'm going to ask Charlotte to delve into a little bit of the detail for you.
Thanks. So our challenge, as Rob alluded to, was to consider how do we fully integrate web, email and mobile to reflect the multi-device customer journey. Our previous programme worked successfully when users were traditionally engaging with us over one device, notably the desktop, working in a way that if a user abandoned an item in their basket, we would send them an email with a link within that. By clicking on the link, they were returned to the basket as they left it, the content being created with the information contained in a cookie left on their computer. However, as users started to engage with us via multiple devices, the programme we had in place was somewhat flawed, as unfortunately, if a customer was to browse with us on their laptop but open their email on their tablet, there was no cookie in place to recreate the basket. This meaning not only did we create a very poor customer experience because they were led to a white screen, we actually were losing out on potential sales opportunities. Whilst this may sound simple in principle, it was quite a technical challenge which we worked closely with Experian to find a solution for.
So I love a bit of deviation, and this may resonate with some of you and not with others. So if anyone's ever listened to Just a Minute on Radio 4, a lot of blank faces, you'll understand the concept of deviation during a conversation. It's probably fallen on deaf ears here. But you haven't wandered into an open university lecture. We're not now going to delve into physics, but we think this is quite an appropriate quote to mention at this point in time, which is that for every action there is an equal and opposite reaction. We have our own version, which is for every customer action there is an equal and relevant and profitable email or message or messaging opportunity that we can use to nurture a customer through a purchase process, for instance. But there are some significant challenges around that. So let's think, for instance, about, first of all, understanding all the various interactions or touch points that could exist for one of your customers as they journey from a consideration into a purchasing phase and through that purchase. We've got to think about how we get data to persist so we can drive the relevancy in that message, which becomes challenging when you have different devices that people might be interacting with, and actually the speed at which they might be changing from device to device. Then you've got to think about the different ways in which you need to be able to deliver and render content. So no longer are we living in a domain where it is solely about the desktop, where we can use very feature-rich functions within emails to drive that conversion. We've got to think about the different user experiences across all those multiple devices. And if I think about that more specifically, I was travelling on the train this morning, on a commuter train, as I imagine most of you were, and there were lots of people doing the mobile phone worship thing on the train, where their minds are buried in a mobile device, doing whatever they might be doing. And actually we need to understand that behaviour so that we can optimise every message and every touch point so that we don't end up with a broken customer journey. Now, when you start to look at that, and if I've done a reasonable job of explaining that, it sounds like a fairly complex, time-consuming, difficult task when you look at the persistency of data across device, the way messaging content renders, the speed of interaction. There's a lot of time and investment that will be needed, or could be perceived to be needed, to actually start to work out and map that and start to address it. So I want to take a couple of moments to look at what the size of the prize starts to look like. Probably no shock, because you guys do probably represent the hyper-connected community. I imagine most of you, like me, are sitting there with multiple devices in pockets, probably something else in a laptop bag. But as we run around in our busy lives, more and more you see people glued to a mobile device. When they're walking down the street, it's amazing you don't see more people walking into lampposts. But the net result of that is more and more email interactions, in this instance with looking at opens, are happening on those devices. Now this looks at Q4 2010 through to H1 2012. Somebody's probably better at maths than me, but roughly we're approaching a 3 times uplift in the number of opens that are occurring. That's the average. And actually, sort of anecdotally, when we look across our client base, we're seeing open rates on mobile devices being into the 40s and in some cases up into the 50%. So the size of the prize and the need to optimise and address this opportunity and some of the challenges that it has is an ever-increasing factor that we need to consider. And we think the size of that prize is worth chasing. But in doing that, I suppose we have to consider what are some of the definitions around mobile. And often there's some confusion and very different opinions around what mobile actually means. So I've got a definition for you. And I really like this, because I think it really starts to challenge the thinking which is traditionally, I suppose, around channel. We look at email, we look at mobile, we look at web, and we look at it in a very linear process. And we want our customers or our prospects to interact with us on a linear process. They come into the website, they move on to an email marketing program, and they work through this process. But it's not actually like that. They're moving from different devices and have many different entry points into your marketing programs. And as I've said, you are the hyper-connected community. You guys have lots of devices, and when you think about mobile rather than channel, if you think about it as the psychology of how people interact with your messages. We've got 4 devices here. I can tick nearly all the boxes on all of those. I'm sure many of you can. And it's about how people will move between those different devices, and it's about how they expect a consistent experience across every single device. The worst thing that can happen is that there is an inconsistent experience, and because people are very, very connected, that can actually lead to a negative experience. And when we play, which we're not showing here, but social media into that, it's very easy for people to be able to reiterate and propagate a negative experience across those platforms. So what we need to do is work really hard to make sure that everything is consistent, everything works up in a joined up fashion, because the consumer doesn't think by channel, they just think about your brand and the touch points they have with it. So that's from a non-channel, more of a device perspective. But when we start to think about mobile devices per se, then we have to start to think about the mobile mindset. Now, some of these are not hugely dissimilar to, let's say, the desktop mindset. So things like when you're delivering marketing comms to somebody's inbox, you're competing for their attention, you're looking for cut-through. It's the same with a mobile device, but actually I think it grows significantly. As I say, on the train, somebody's listening to music on a device while playing. I saw somebody playing chess this morning. So you're competing with tasks and actions that they are carrying out, which are both game, leisure activities as well as some business tasks. Because of the multitude of apps and functions on a smartphone, again, you're competing within that whole environment. Furthermore, during an average day, the way you would interact with your mobile device changes as well. So, although there were lots of people doing lots of mobile phone worship this morning, it was in a busy commuter carriage, and the thing that was going through my mind was, what a great time to be dropping messages to these individuals. But one of the issues would be, can you see a situation where somebody would then get their credit card out on a busy commuter train and start to transact with you? That's probably not going to happen. And then equally, as the day goes on, as people are rushing between meetings, the way that they're interacting with a mobile device is probably very different from when you're sat in front of the television later on a tablet dual screening, where you may be paying more attention and be more comfortable about actually getting out your credit card details and transacting. So it's really important to think about that mobile mindset and the influencing factors that will be both adding to the experience, but also could be detracting from that experience. It's all about the patterns of behaviour that exist around that. One of the things we do know, and I think in the past, if we talk about SMS for a moment, sometimes SMS marketing has been criticised for being overly intrusive. I think that's actually because we're a very polite society in the UK, and when I look to my American colleagues, a lot of them are much more aggressive in the marketing tactics that they use. And that's much more accepted to be much more upfront and brazen about the type of marketing you carry out within the US. So we're a very polite society. But actually, from the graph here, what we're showing is that actually, because we are constantly walking around glued to handheld devices, actually what you've got is a much faster speed to interaction on a handset device. So actually we can use that to our advantage, where we've got time-critical messages. We are going to get far better, quicker response rates as we get more proliferation of email opens and email interactions on mobile devices. So again, you need to think about the consideration times. If you want to get a message in front of somebody so that you can sort of placehold some time with them so they purchase later on in the day, think about how mobile behaviour could interact with that. Now this is a fun slide, because according to compliance, I can't mention the names. So for the next few minutes, I'm going to talk about a fruit-based company and a non-fruit-based company. And I'm talking about this in terms of the considerations about the platforms that you need to be looking at and optimising for. This is the sort of penetration of the fruit-based and non-fruit-based mobile platforms, and very much it's weighted in the fruit-based category. Now, and you would think, well, maybe I need to focus on the fruit-based category, but that's not really the case. I think what we're saying here is you need to be considering both, and actually you need to be optimising for both, because the non-fruit-based one is the one that has the real growth potential, because the fruit-based one's already got the lion's share of the market. So it's about making sure you're optimising considerate. It's amazing when you put one of these headsets on that your words won't come out. It's about considering the different platforms and how you optimise towards those. And again, anecdotally, and I think this speaks to the different types of consumers, but anecdotally, those using the fruit-based platform have a higher propensity to actually transact from a mobile device. Does that say anything about platforms? I'm not sure. I think it really speaks to sort of the early adopters and those that are more confident with mobile devices using this type of product. So it's kind of a bit of scene setting, and I just wanted to take that on a stage to talk about very briefly about some of the other things that are actually really engaging people at the moment in terms of content. And there's a couple of case studies that can be pulled from our website for some deeper exploring. The one is around P&O cruises, and it's one of those numbers that I have to keep double checking to make sure it's right. But actually, P&O have looked extensively at video content in email to really create that standout factor. And to give you an idea of the kind of returns, they've had a 679% increase in bookings with video and email. And equally, Quote Me Happy of mobile optimised their email insurance quotes, which delivered a 9 times increase in conversion rates. But it's probably time to get back to the Vodafone story, so I'm going to ask Charlotte to continue that for you.
The key when redeveloping our programme was to ensure that it was truly customer-centric and really took consideration of the mobile mindset. It's important that we remember that although as organisations we view channels in isolation, consumers really don't see channels as channels. As a customer, the expectation is that they should receive a message that is right for them through the right channel for them. This making it essential that you not only understand your market, but ensure that all your channels are fully optimised so that the customer's expectation is always fulfilled. However, again, as I mentioned, this really isn't a simple task, as the use of cookies to link email and web is the norm. So by adding mobile into the mix, we really had to start from scratch and look for a new solution for our abandoned basket programme.
So what did this mean? It meant starting from the ground up, basically. As Charlotte mentioned, working out a way to operate and create persistent data to drive really relevant emails in a cookie-free environment. It's not a simple challenge, and it involved us working together to identify sources of data and bring those sources of data together to make them actionable. And it also important to understand how we could make people identifiable at every interaction that they had. That was quite a significant challenge. And then on the front end, so once we dealt with the data issues, about looking at the front end and looking at how we adapt those messages so that they are truly usable across every single device. And I know it sounds like a very simple thing, but if you're like me, you're pinching and zooming and trying to hit calls to action, why not just make the call to action button bigger for your mobile version? And it was these kind of considerations that we needed to work through to get to a truly optimised set of creatives or content to address the problems that we were trying to solve. So I'm going to ask Charlotte to share with you some of the creative.
Thanks. So at the front end, we took a complete creative refresh to our abandoned basket email, meaning that it not only now looks great, but also displays perfectly across all email clients, regardless of the device the consumer is using. A key success for us here was that rather than having to create and maintain 2 separate creatives, a feature-rich one for desktop and a feature-light one for mobile, we were able to deploy a singular email that automatically recognises the device a user is on and optimises the content to fit the device it's been opened upon. This was possible due to Experience Insight across the entire mobile architecture, utilising a combination of innovative tracking techniques and coding that was specifically designed for our programme. This allows us to capture customer data in detail, identifying the device the email is opened upon and always delivering that perfectly rendered message. So the output of this programme was an elegant solution that encourages far greater engagement with our abandoned basket programme, not only driving traffic to our Vodafone.co.uk website, but also enabling the conversion of prospects into customers, which in turn delivers ROI, but most importantly doing this in a way that is customer friendly. and aligned to their use of multiple devices within their shopping journey. So, onto our results that we've seen since implementing this programme. They really do speak for themselves. We've seen over 40% of users who receive one of our responsive emails are going on to open them upon a mobile device. This demonstrating the importance of an integrated approach designed to make it easier and faster to engage with us as a brand. Since implementing the new programme, orders from the abandoned baskets have increased by 30%. In addition to tracking these conversions, thanks to the technology we've used, we can now also see more detailed metrics, such as how long transactions are taking to make and which campaigns are delivering the most revenue for us, thus allowing us to continually refine our programme and implement further improvements in the customer journey that will go on to deliver maximum return for us as an organisation. So in terms of key takeaways, if you're considering implementing a simple approach or experiencing some of the challenges that we've taken you through today, our key takeouts would be always think customer first. Remember that customers don't always think of things in the same way we do as organisations. Make sure you understand your customer journey and think about what you're asking the user to do and at what point you are asking them to convert, and think about how you can assist them with doing this conversion. Don't be afraid to start again. Technology is constantly evolving along with our customer usage of that. So what previously worked well may simply not be able to cope with the new styles of customer behaviour. So sometimes it is easier and more relevant just to start again. And finally, make sure you understand the people behind the channel. By understanding the people behind the channel, you'll be able to ensure you can optimise your content and can start to be a lot smarter about how you target your consumers and how you interact with them.
So I'd like to first of all thank Charlotte for joining me today to talk to you about the experiences of building out this programme. I'd like to thank you for your time in coming along to attend.